The old plane flew high above the clouds. It carried people. They were going to a new place. The sky was a bright, clear blue. Below, the Amazon jungle stretched like a green ocean. It was vast and endless. Passengers looked out of small windows. They saw the green carpet far below. Some slept, some read. It was a normal day in the sky. Then a sudden jolt, a strange noise began. The noise grew louder. It was a terrible grinding sound. The plane started to shake. People woke up. Fear appeared on their faces. The captain's voice came over the speaker. His words were calm, but the plane shook more. Coffee cups rattled and fell. Luggage tumbled from overhead bins. Screams mixed with the engine's dying roar. The world outside the windows tilted wildly. Green became a blur. The great green ocean rushed up to meet them. This was not a gentle landing. It was a crash, a violent tearing of metal. Trees became giant green claws. They ripped at the plane's wings. The sounds were deafening. Breaking glass, snapping branches. The final earth-shattering impact. Then a sudden, heavy silence. It was a silence full of dust and the smell of fuel. Darkness pressed in on everyone. Was this the end, or a terrible new beginning? Slowly, one by one, people began to stir. A groan here, a cough there. The silence was broken by small human sounds. Outside the broken windows, a new world waited. It was the Amazon jungle. It was not an ocean from above anymore. It was a dense, living, breathing place. It was all around them. Green leaves pressed against the twisted metal. The air was thick. It was heavy with the scent of unknown flowers and damp earth. They were alive, but they were lost. Pain was the first thing many felt. Sharp, dull, aching, then came confusion. Where were they? What had happened? Survivors crawled from the wreckage. They helped each other. Some had cuts, some had broken bones. Their clothes were torn. Their faces were smudged with dirt and fear. The jungle watched them. It was a silent green giant. It offered no easy answers, only questions. How would they survive this? A young woman named Maria checked on an elderly man. A boy helped a girl find her lost shoe. Despair tried to creep into their hearts. The jungle was so big. It was a green maze. They had so little. No food, no clean water for now, no shelter from the rain or the night. But then a small voice spoke. "We need to find water," it said. It was David, a quiet man who knew a little about the outdoors. His words cut through the fear. Teamwork started in small ways. David suggested they look for a stream. Others agreed. They salvaged what they could from the plane, water bottles, even if empty. A few blankets, a first aid kit, thankfully mostly intact. Every small item was precious. They made a list of who was there. They counted their small blessings. They were alive. They had each other. The jungle was a challenge, but human spirit is also strong. Hope is a fragile thing. It can be easily crushed, but it can also grow in hard places. A small group found a stream not too far away. The water was clear and cool. It tasted like life itself. They brought water back for the injured. Someone found some fruit they recognized from a book. It was a small victory, but it felt huge. They would not give up. They would face this green world. They would learn to live. The days turned into a routine of survival. They built a better camp near the stream. They learned to identify a few edible plants, but the nights were different. The jungle came alive with new sounds, strange calls, rustling in the undergrowth. Fear was a constant companion in the dark. They kept a fire burning. The flames danced. They pushed back the shadows, but they could not push back the feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. One night, the watching eyes came closer. A low growl rumbled through the camp. It was deep, it was powerful. The firelight flickered on a pair of glowing eyes. Then a massive shape emerged from the darkness. It was a great cat. Its coat was orange with black stripes. A jungle tiger, fierce and hungry. Panic seized the group. People screamed. They scrambled backwards. The tiger let out another roar. It was the sound of pure, wild power. In that moment of terror, a young man named Kenji acted. He had been a firefighter. He knew about facing danger. He grabbed a burning branch from the fire. He waved it at the tiger. He shouted. His voice was surprisingly strong. "Get back, go," he yelled. The tiger paused. It was surprised by this sudden defiance. Other men, seeing Kenji's bravery, grabbed sticks and pans. They made noise. They stood together. They showed they would fight. The tiger was a magnificent creature, but it was also cautious. It did not want an easy meal that fought back so hard. It snarled one last time. It swiped a paw, but hit only air. Then slowly it backed away. It melted back into the shadows. It was gone. Silence returned. But it was a different silence. It was filled with shaking hands and fast-beating hearts. They had faced the striped shadow, and they had won. They were more than just survivors. They were fighters. The encounter with the tiger changed them. It made them stronger. It also made them realize they needed better protection. The jungle was beautiful, but it was also dangerous. The broken airplane was a scar on the landscape, but it was also a resource. It was made of strong metal. It could offer shelter. They decided to make it their home. Not just a temporary camp, but a real fortified place to live. They worked together, day after day. They used tools salvaged from the plane, or tools they made from stone and wood. They cut away the twisted parts of the fuselage. They cleared the area inside. They used seats for beds. They used metal sheets to patch holes. They built a strong door. They made shutters for the windows. It was hard work. The sun was hot. Insects bit them. But they did not stop. They were building hope. Slowly, a strange kind of home emerged. It was part plane, part cabin. It was strong. It kept out the rain. It kept out the scary night sounds. They even made a small, fenced area around it. It felt safer. Inside, they organized their few belongings. They made it as comfortable as they could. They assigned different parts of the plane for different uses. A place to sleep, a place to cook, a place to store food. This new home was more than just shelter. It was a symbol of their will. They had taken something broken, something from a disaster, and they had made it into something useful, something good. The jungle still surrounded them. It was still wild, but now they had a place that was theirs, a small island of human order in the vast green chaos. It was not a palace, but it was their home, and they loved it. Section 5. The river's gift: finding food in the wild. Safety was important, but food was life. Hunger was a constant reminder of their fragile existence. Foraging for fruits and roots helped, but it was not enough. They needed a more reliable source of protein. The river that gave them water also held another secret: fish. They saw them swimming in the clear shallows, big ones, small ones, a moving treasure. But how to catch them? They had no fishing rods, no nets. They had to be clever, resourceful. Some remembered stories from their grandparents or things they saw in movies. They tried different ideas. They sharpened long sticks into spears. This was difficult. The fish were fast. They tried weaving a simple net from vines and plant fibers. This took many days. Many patient hands worked together. They learned by trying and by failing and by trying again. Then one day, success. A spear found its mark. A silvery fish thrashed on the end. A shout of joy went up. Soon after, the first woven net caught a few small fish. It was a miracle. They cooked the fish over the fire. The taste was amazing. It was the taste of success, the taste of hope. They learned the river's rhythms, when the fish were most active, where the best spots were. The river became their friend, their provider. They also started a very small garden near their plane home. They planted seeds from the fruits they ate. They found some wild yams and tried to grow them. It was not easy. The soil was new to them. Insects came, but they tended their small plants with care. They watered them with river water. Seeing the first green shoots push through the earth was another victory. Food from the river, food from the earth. They were learning to live with the jungle, not just in it. Section 6, Seeds of Hope, cultivating a new life. The small garden was a start, But they dreamed of more. They wanted more security, more variety in their food. So they cleared a larger patch of land. It was careful work because they didn't want to harm the jungle too much, just enough for their needs. They learned which trees gave good wood and which plants might be useful. The jungle was a hard teacher, but it was also a generous one, if you paid attention. They found more seeds, some in the emergency supplies of the plane meant for survival kits, and others were native plants they identified as edible. They planted rows of beans, squash and corn from a few precious kernels. Each seed was a promise, a tiny speck of future food. They built a fence around the garden to keep out curious animals. They took turns watering and weeding. It was a community effort. Everyone helped. The first real harvest was a time of great celebration. The corn was sweet, the beans were tender, and the squash was plentiful. They had a feast. They thanked the earth. They thanked each other. They had worked hard, and now they had a reward. The food filled their stomachs, but it also filled their hearts. It showed them what they could achieve together with patience and with hard work. The garden became more than just a food source. It was a place of beauty. They planted some wildflowers they found, and bright colors bloomed among the vegetables. Children, if there were any, or the young at heart, played near it. It was a symbol of their new life, a life they were building with their own hands in the middle of the wild. The garden showed that even in the hardest places, life could flourish, hope could grow. Section 7. An unlikely herd, the coming of the cows. Life in their jungle home settled into a rhythm. They had shelter, they had water, and they had a growing garden. But one day, a new and unexpected thing happened. David and Kenji were exploring further than usual. They were looking for new fruit trees or perhaps useful plants. They pushed through thick vines, crossed a shallow stream, and then they saw them, cows. A small herd of cows in the middle of the Amazon jungle. It was a strange sight, right? Cows were not jungle animals. These were thin, a little wild-looking, but they were definitely cows. Perhaps they had escaped from a faraway ranch many years ago, or from a research station lost to time. No one knew, but there they were, a gift, a challenge. The survivors talked excitedly. Cows meant milk, maybe even cheese one day, meat if they managed them well, and manure for their precious garden. Capturing them was not easy. These were not tame farm animals. They were wary and quick. The survivors had to be clever. They had to be patient. They built a strong enclosure using logs and vines near their home. Then very slowly they managed to guide a few of the cows into it. It took many days, many failed attempts, but finally they had a small herd. 4 cows and a young bull. The cows changed their lives again for the better. They learned to milk them. The fresh milk was a wonderful food, especially for the children and the elderly. They learned to make a simple kind of cheese. The cow manure made their garden grow even better. The cows became part of their community. They were no longer just plane crash survivors. They were farmers, ranchers. They were building a true, sustainable life in the heart of the wild. Section 8. Darkness Falls, the trial of kidnapping. Their small paradise was thriving. They had found a kind of peace, a happiness born from shared struggle and success. But the jungle held other secrets, not just animals and plants, but also sometimes dangerous men. One afternoon, strange men appeared at the edge of their clearing. They were not friendly, they carried guns, looked hard and mean. They were illegal loggers or perhaps bandits. They saw the survivors' small, ordered world, and they wanted something. The men were rough, they demanded food, tools. They saw the women, their eyes were greedy. The survivors were scared, but they stood firm. They would not give up what they had built. The bandits grew angry. In the confusion, they grabbed young Maria. They said they would take her unless the survivors gave them everything they wanted. They dragged her away into the jungle. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced every heart. Their peace was shattered. Despair threatened to return, but anger was stronger, and so was their unity. They would not let the bandits win. They would not abandon Maria. David and Kenji, along with a few other brave men and women, decided to act. They knew the jungle now, better than these outsiders. They had their courage, they had their love for each other. They made a plan, a risky plan, but they had to try. They armed themselves with their spears, machetes, and their wits. They tracked the bandits carefully, silently. Using all their jungle skills, they found their crude camp. Under the cover of darkness, they launched their attack. It was swift, it was brave. There was a fight, shouts, the clang of metal. The survivors fought with the fury of people protecting their home, their family. They were not soldiers, but they were united. Their courage surprised the bandits. They drove them off. They rescued Maria. She was scared, but she was safe. Their community was whole again, stronger than ever. Section 9. Echoes in the green lessons of a jungle paradise. The kidnapping attempt was a harsh reminder. The world could be a dangerous place. Even their secluded paradise was not immune. But they had faced the danger, and they had won. Not with guns, but with courage, with unity, with their knowledge of the jungle. They strengthened their defenses, became more watchful. But they did not let fear rule them. They had learned too much to go back to being afraid. The Amazon jungle had been their prison, then it became their teacher. It was a hard teacher, tested them every day with hunger, with danger, with loneliness. but it also taught them precious lessons. It taught them how to be resourceful, how to find solutions, how to work together. It taught them about the strength of the human spirit, a spirit that could bend but would not easily break. They learned to listen to the whispers of the wind, to read the language of the trees and the river. They found happiness, not the happiness of an easy life, but a deeper happiness. The happiness of overcoming great challenges, the happiness of building something good, something lasting from the ashes of disaster. They had faced death, and they had chosen life. A hard life, yes, but a meaningful life, a life filled with purpose. They found joy in simple things. A good harvest, a shared meal, the laughter of friends, the beauty of a jungle sunset. Their jungle paradise was not just a place on a map. It was something they had built inside themselves. It was made of courage, of hope, of love for each other. They learned that life's battles are many. They come in different forms, a plane crash, a tiger, hunger, even wicked men, but these battles could be faced. They could be won if you had faith, if you had friends, and if you never ever gave up. This was the true meaning of survival. This was the secret of their green paradise.